Welcome to the Council of Better Business Bureau's podcast, The Bistro, where we will discuss today's hottest consumer trends, predict the future with consumer experts, and learn how elite businesses and entrepreneurs continue to push the envelope in today's marketplace.
Hello and welcome to The Bistro. Thank you for joining us today for the Better Business Bureau. I'm your host, Elena Spinola. So today we are talking about buying and selling a home because something most Americans consider at one point or another is doing just that. And not only is it a large financial investment, it's also a very large emotional one as well. And so as with any large purchase, the more educated you are in the process, the better it will be for you. So here to educate us and provide some excellent tips on making that home buying process an easier and more pleasant one is Tina Collazo. She's a real estate consultant with Collazo Realty Group and with the Pearson Smith Realty. Tina, welcome to the Bistro. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Elaine, for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And let me tell you, right now we're in, the spring, summer timeframe, and people are thinking about buying and selling a home, if not now, but maybe next year. And so this is going to be a great conversation. So I want to ask, how long have you been a realtor?
I've been a realtor for almost 15 years, since August 2002.
Okay, so you definitely know what you're talking about. And the main reason why I asked is because, over the years, we see different trends in all kinds of different consumer industries. And so I'm sure in the real estate industry, you've seen a lot of different trends, but I think some things in home buying remain the same. So we want to talk about those important things, and then we'll get to the good stuff because we want to know what we can expect in the real estate market for 2017. So we'll get to that. And for our listeners, make sure you stick with us this entire podcast. So financial stability. That's something people definitely need to have in order to start with when thinking about buying a home. Specifically understanding their credit worthiness so they can get approved for a loan. Is that correct? Talk to us about that.
Yes, credit is definitely key because the first, part about when you're looking or considering buying a home is to go ahead and get pre-approved for a mortgage. And so that's one of the first things that the loan officer is going to do is pull your credit, Elaine. And they're going to look at credit from the 3 credit bureaus. So they're going to look at things such as, your how much debt that you have. You have to consider things like if you have a credit card, and I'm just going to use simple math here, but if your credit limit is $1,000, you really shouldn't have a balance of no more than 25 to 30%. So your balance shouldn't even be more than $250 to $300 for your credit to be considered credit worthy or knowing how to manage your credit really wisely. Because anything higher than that actually starts impacting your credit negatively.
See, these are great tips. Like, how would someone know this if they don't do their homework or listen to a podcast like this? So
exactly.
That's awesome. Thank you. Tell us some other things people can do credit-wise or savings-wise, even career-wise, to increase their likelihood of getting approved for a mortgage loan.
Sure. One of the things, let's get back to credit, is that, unfortunately, it is important to have a credit card or two. So you probably want to have about 3 and diversify it. It's not about using it and to the max. It's just showing that you know how to use it wisely because unfortunately in our country is that the credit cards or credit is actually has a heavy weight on your credit score.
Right.
It's not, necessarily like if you have a car loan or a personal loan, you would think that those are installment loans. Those are great. The banks just want to know that you're making your payments on time. But what they're really, again, with your scores, it's really factoring in that that you're utilizing that credit wisely, that you can have a certain amount, but you're keeping the balances low or to zero. So definitely learn, just use a credit card for gas or for groceries, and then pay it off every month. Or keep the balance below 25 to 30%. Saving for a down payment, start looking at, it's the little foxes that get you caught up. So those Starbucks trips that you take every day and you spend $10, well, 10 times 5 is 50, 50 times 4 is 200. You've spent, at least a couple $100 or more just on that. So you need to start looking at your budget to see where you're doing some extra spending that you can do, save at least $500 to $1,000 per month.
That's a great tip. Would you recommend someone kind of just sit down, look at their monthly bills, look at their excesses, like you said, getting Starbucks or anything else and say, where can I cut back? And let me actually focus on it, take a look, and watch what happens on a monthly basis, how much you can save, and then over time. That's another great tip because we don't always think about that kind of thing. What about career-wise? I mean, what things can you do, I don't know, with your job or to save a little extra money or 401k adjustments or anything like that?
Sure. They definitely want to look at what their companies will match and do is maximize that as much as possible, because that's a great savings and money that they won't see to have to divvy out. It's already going to be taken out of their check in advance. So contribute as much as you can, and it's also see what your employer is willing to match as well.
Great tip there. So there's also different types of financing and mortgage options. Can you walk us through some of those options?
Sure. Just a couple brief ones. I mean, you have, like, for the first time home buyers, they have access to FHA. There is a bank that does 0 down, but you have to have a certain credit score or have military background or government contracting. But then you can do conventional financing, and that's about, I think now it's lowered to about 3%. And you have options of no mortgage insurance as well for those.
Okay, so where's the best place for people to find this information? I mean, let's just say you're totally green. Maybe you've just been, leasing an apartment, and now you're starting to think about that. I mean, not everyone's aware, there's this type of loan. I mean, where would you send people to go find this information?
I definitely advise your listeners to speak with a well knowledgeable, been in the business, full-time, a realtor, a real estate agent that has access to all kind of relationships. It's a one-stop shop, and specifically that realtor will be able to refer them to 2 to 3 qualified lenders, part of her team, if you are his team, that would be able to not only walk them through that, pull their credit, look at their income, and then to present to them the options based upon their scenario of what would be the best loan program for them.
Sure, because everyone's different. Everyone has different situations. You might be coming with a military background or not. Gotcha. And so as a realtor, and you're a very successful realtor, do you recommend certain mortgage lenders that you've worked with in the past that you trust? Or, is that something a person should kind of find on their own?
Great question, Elaine. I think it's important when you have a referral from someone who's been in the business a long time, because for me, I've built my business around people that have the same work ethics that I have integrity, and also I build a referral-based business. So client relationship is very key. And so with that said, they're going to make sure that your client or that you get the best quality service and the best information as possible.
So if you find a great realtor, they might, like you said, have a great network of people that they can work with throughout the entire process.
It takes the guessing game out for someone buying a home to try to figure out how to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, certainly makes it easier. So I've got a question. This is a question that I was curious about. What is the difference between a mortgage lender and a mortgage broker?
A mortgage lender is someone who's more in-house, like let's say whether it's let me throw it out there, a Wells Fargo, for example. They do, you deal with them directly. They're not brokering out or looking at other lenders, if you will.
I see.
They're going to do the loan in-house, whereas a mortgage broker has access to all the different lenders based upon the loan program that is the right fit for you. And so they'll be able to piece it out. So what happens is if you do get a loan with a mortgage broker, when you go to settlement, you'll be told at settlement that your loan will be sold within a month or two. So you'll be making your mortgage payment to that actual company directly versus to the broker.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Helpful to me, and I'm sure helpful to a lot of people listening too. All right, let's talk about price competition in real estate. Why should consumers care about competition in the real estate industry? And also tell me about that 80-20 rule we were talking about.
Sure. Especially in the springtime, this is when the height of the market. So you really have to go into buying a home and looking at the fact that, okay, what type of loan program do you have? How much you need to put down? Have you saved enough for not only your down payment and your closing costs? Because when you're competing in this marketplace, and just like Elaine alluded to with the 80-20 rule, is that 80% of the market is going to be in that sweet spot range. It's where the majority of the buyers are. So if you're a first-time home buyer, you're somewhere in that 300 to maybe 450 range, if you will, in Northern Virginia or DC market. And so what that means is you have to make sure that your offer is very tight or very, the least amount of contingencies as possible, such as asking for closing costs, and wanting additional things that would be associated with the negotiating of the contract. You want to have the cleanest offers possible, because if the seller's going to look at how much they're going to net, and if you're allowing them to net more than the other offers on the table, if it's a multiple offer situation, the chances of you winning that offer or winning the contract is going to be significantly higher.
Okay, well, it sounds like that's where a good real estate agent comes into play, because as a consumer, you don't know all of those things. And so working with someone who's knows what they're doing, knows what they're talking about, and can really help you gain that advantage in the competitive market is extremely helpful. So tell me, what are the fiduciary responsibilities of the buyer's agent?
The fiduciary responsibilities of buyer's agent would include, representing their best interests, finding the home that's the best fit for you, what you're looking for, writing your contract, negotiating it, representing your best interests. And that's also why, your agent will ask you to sign a buyer agency agreement, because it's in writing to show that they are representing you and not to the seller. Because if there's no agreement in place, technically they represent the seller, even though they're working with you. So, and they're just to make sure that they protect your best interests, inform you of everything you need to be, that needs to be known, and then help see you to a successful closing on your home.
Okay. Do you ever watch those real estate shows on TV? Sometimes those are so stressful, right?
You know what? I really don't, because I know now behind the scenes all that is acting.
Oh. So, but is there a lot of stress going on?
Yes, there is. It can be stressful. And that's why, again, as an agent and also having my team of professionals, whether it's the lender, the title company, the home inspector, and even the handyman or general contractor, whenever work is necessary. But needless to say, my job and our job as real estate professionals is to minimize the turbulence, because you are on an airplane. And if we're making sure that there is going to be turbulence, so I do want you to expect that. But again, it's all about how it's handled. And when all parties are on the same page, even the other agent with the seller on the other side, when everybody's on the same page, it makes for a smoother and successful transaction for you, and buying opportunity for you.
Sure. Well, again, that's huge, because this is a large financial investment as well as an extremely emotional one for so many people. So, all right, we want to get into some of the good stuff. Tell us about the timeline? I know a lot of people think, the spring is the best time. And then sometimes you meet with a realtor who says, you know what, actually the fall is hot. So what are we seeing right now?
Okay, so what I've seen over the last 15 years, it's really funny, is it seems like the spring market springs up a lot sooner in the colder season than it does when there's flowers outside. So what you can start expecting is anywhere from February to about early June is when you're going to see the spring market, and it's going to be hot. And again, if you're in that special price point, definitely expect competition. When June through early August, that's when things slow down, because everybody's on vacation. So that's when I tell my clients who are buying homes, or those even looking to invest, because I'm going to do my investing this summer, because everybody's out, on the beach. This is when you want to shop, because houses sit a little bit longer, or there's less competition. So you can almost, I wouldn't say name your price, but there's opportunity to negotiate.
Okay. Because
the seller will be more motivated, because there's no other competition out there. And then, mid to late August, the frenzy starts back up, because everybody's doing their last minute moving. And then by, early fall, again, it's a great time, less competition. And then the last part of going mid-November on to the end of December, that's when you have everybody doing their last minute shopping, whether they're buying or investing, to get the tax benefits of homeownership. Okay,
wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Tina, where can our listeners learn more about you and your services? Do you have a website?
Yes, they can visit my website at www.collazorealtygroup.com. That's COLLAZO realtygroup.com.
Okay, awesome. You've really provided a lot of really helpful tips. And I know people that are listening, looking to buy or sell, not only this year, but maybe next year, this is going to be really, really helpful. So we want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Again, buying and selling a home is something most Americans will undertake at some point in time. And I hope that they gain some really helpful tips from listening today. The Better Business Bureau is deeply committed to building and advancing a better marketplace, a trusted marketplace for all, because trust always matters. Tina, thank you for joining us today. For the Better Business Bureau, and as your host of The Bistro, I'm Elena Spinola. I thank you for listening, and I encourage you to give us your feedback on this episode. Until next time, it's been my pleasure discussing better business with you.
You just enjoyed the Bistro podcast. Be sure to tune in next month for a brand new episode. To learn more about our other shows, visit betterbusiness.blueberry.com. That's betterbusiness.blueberry.com and subscribe. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are the views and opinions of the guests, not those of the Better Business Bureau, Council of Better Business Bureau, or program affiliates. This podcast is for information and educational purposes only and is copyrighted with all rights reserved. This podcast is protected by Blueberry's Terms of Service.